the Brussels Report podcast.
Welcome to a new episode of the Brussels Report podcast. My name is Pieter Cleppe. I'm the editor-in-chief of BrusselsReport.eu. And today we're going to discuss the crisis in Darfur, which sometimes can be called the forgotten crisis, and which has been flaring up recently. And for that, I'm very happy to have a specialist as my guest, Mr. Mbaken Diaye, who's originally from Senegal. He has a law degree from the University of Dakar, and he's a real specialist in the Sahel region. He's also an expert in the history of religions, political communication, and an international consultant. So very welcome, Mbake.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pieter Cleppe.
So maybe let's start with the beginning. Could you tell a bit more about what's actually going on in Darfur? We've heard about it. I remember this famous actor sort of raising attention for it, and then it seems to have improved for a while. And especially this year, it looks like there are terrible things happening again, right?
Yeah, this is the second civil war in Sudan, and especially that touched the region of Darfur.
Mm-hmm.
You know that Darfur is inhabited by African population, or they say black population, and then you have the big majority of the population. And since 2003, and with the beginning of the civil war until 2019, there is a problem between the Arab tribes and the African population. And this is what is going on there. It's a civil war, and this is also a genocide in making.
Mm-hmm. And the government of Sudan is, I understand, sort of backing the Arab side in the civil war. Is that correct, or?
Yes, we heard from some person working on the field of this war in Sudan that we can notice that the main countries, Arab countries, are supporting this Janjaweed militia who is working with the government, which claim that they are Arab because they was mingled with the Arab population since the uh, 40th century, 14th siècle, and this population now is ruling the state from the capital Sudan, and they are, sitting a lot of exactions on the black population.
Yeah, and recently I saw that at least 1,400 people died after some raid, right? Beginning of
Yes,
November.
yes. They say the figures are, extremely uh, high high rate of people dying there,
Mm.
and nobody's intervening, and all the possibilities to have good and right information in the field of Sudan is a little bit difficult because of no way for the other media, because there is no independent media there, and there is also no hard civil society as we know it in the Western countries. So the number of people dying is increasing day after day, and this is very, very, very sad what's happening there.
And so in the Western media, or even the international media, you could say, okay, this has been reported, but I think very much on the sidelines, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
not triggering special summits. And if you look at Ukraine, of course, you can explain everything. Ukraine is in Europe; it's obviously very important.
Hmm.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has always received a lot of attention, but
Hmm.
then somehow, like, why do you think that is? Why is it that sort of there's so little
Yeah.
attention in comparison?
Well, the first thing is sticking on my mind is because it's the war of poor countries.
Mm,
What's happening in the south is something you cannot describe, because if you go to the figures, you see that there is a quantity of people dying, and it's not that the same thing happening, for example, in the Ukrainian conflict
mm,
or in Gaza Israel conflict. And the attention is almost always turned in the direction of these countries instead of what is happening in Sudan. And Africa have no big media like CNN or like BBC or like even what is happening with the Parliament of European Parliament. They have some media who help to give transmission of this information that we don't have in Africa. The African Union and all these organizations, political organizations in acting in the Darfur region have no possibility, to broadcast this in the level of the world. That's why this conflict is, very, very, very difficult to follow if you just are keeping touch with the media.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that's despite the fact that if we only would look at our own interests, even then,
Mm,
I think it would make sense to take a look because, I mean, you're an expert in the Sahel region, and
mm,
we can see trouble all across the Sahel region, right? I mean, only recently, I think this summer, we had this coup in Niger.
mhm.
Like yeah, Bin Laden,
Mhm.
he has been in the past
Yeah,
sheltered
hosted
by,
in,
by
yeah,
by Sudan. So I think
absolutely. Mhm.
like we ignore it at our peril, right?
Yeah, that's right. And the terrorism threat is, very, very impacting in these countries. If you go from the Sudan and you settle down until Mali, Mauritania, Chad, Niger, all these countries are facing the threat of terrorism
Mm.
because of the way the Islam came in this country
All
with
right.
the Arab empires in the movement of Islamization, and the way this Islam was spread in this region is, the reason that there is always radicalization, because they see the world in one eye, and they don't accept the diversity of the world, and they don't accept that the people have the right to think or to be related in another religion. And I think if the peace of the world depends on the way the big nations, the big countries like America, France, United European Union have to manage all these things, because these countries have no democracy, and there is no a strong civil society neither in this country. So the only thing we can do is to give power and forces to the civil society, helped by countries like European Union or the United States. And you see in the region, always the United States are brokered the summits between, before, for example, the Arabi Saudite and the transition in Sudan, because they can do it themselves. What is apparently is a question of a simple reason. people are dying, and there is likely a genocide. And
And and to
yeah.
recap, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that in all across the Sahel,
Hmm.
many people are being converted to Islam,
Hmm.
but not a tolerant form of Islam, a very, let's say, authoritarian, extremist
Hmm.
form of Islam, right? That's
Hmm.
correct.
Yeah, that's correct. What is happening after years and decades of very liberal Islam?
Mm,
We now are facing in the Sahel region some forces coming from Libya for the dislocation of Libya,
mm,
and they are, spreading in the field of this West African region, and the threat is increasingly touching part of the society. And now we have some political parties in some traditional African democracies, which are now religious parties, Islamic parties. So we have
Islamists,
some, yeah,
yeah.
Islamists. Yes, we have some leaders, and that is, a little bit uh, dangerous for
Yes.
the living together of this population.
And basically, who is paying for this? Is there somebody paying for this?
Of course, you can know, you cannot say, okay, this is this country or this other country, but for sure there is something behind this, and they are saying maybe there is the Shia movement. The other people say it's the Salafism
Mm,
in Saudi Arabia,
mhm.
but there is we have to explore this area to know what is happening there, and what is what are their meaning to develop this ideology, which is very extremely brutal, and one thing and one way to think, and one way to have relation with the other nation and other people. You have to be
And
submit to the religion, or you have to die.
and okay, maybe indeed Shia, maybe Iran or forces in the Arab Peninsula, maybe not necessarily the governments, but some wealthy
Forces. Mm,
Salafists,
mm,
maybe behind the spreading of the religion. But then maybe not in of course in Sudan we see the government on the side of the oppressor, but
mhm,
we like in these other conflicts. I mean, it must cost a lot of money to get all the weaponry to challenge the state, right? So like, is there any clarity on the financing to finance this rebellion, basically?
mhm. I have heard from my friends who's living in Kenya and in Uganda. They say that the government, the officials, have arrested an aircraft, an United Arab Emirates aircraft, which was transporting some ammunitions and rifles, and they was saying it was aid from food and medicines,
Mm.
which was not right. It was and they say the craft have not to be monitored by the officials in Uganda, and but after months, we have observed that this aircraft was um, uh, located in Mali, in Chad, and the arms was distributed to the militia of Janjaweed. So this is,
And
tremendous,
the this militia is the militia that is being backed by the Sudan
backed
government,
by
right?
Sudan government and the Arab
Yes.
nations.
To like go after mostly the black population
Yeah.
of Sudan
Mm.
in Darfur. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it is time to say and stop very seriously what is happening in the genocide,
Mm.
and the world is turning the eye towards some other conflict. Every life is a life, and every human being is a human being. So it's not kind of uh, saying this deserve to be checked or no. It's just a question of human being.
Sure.
So I think it is on our duty to say stop, and in the head of these things have to be the United Nations, United States, European Union, and
Hmm.
all these big organization like African Union, and try to do something because it is becoming very hard for this population.
And maybe let's get to that. So, what can the European Union and maybe also then the United States and even the African Union? Let's maybe discuss those three actors.
Mhm.
What could they do, according to you, to improve the situation?
No, Sudan is backed by Emirates Arab Unis and Saudi Arabia. That is,
Hmm.
everybody know it, and there is a possibility for a European Union to put pressure or to put these countries under pressure, and asking them to, to conform on the international right and law, and the African Union can also do something through the these armed forces by the African Union, who can
Hmm.
intervene in some countries, because now they are saying this is a civil war. We don't have right to intervene in a sovereignty of a people, but this is a problem of humanitarian problem. So I don't think that we can stop just behind the law who said it is a question of sovereignty. We have
Sure.
to break this law and to enter in this country and then stop what is happening there. The United States are already in this in the field. They are working with Arabia Saudi in United Arab of Emirates,
Hmm.
but I think there is things to be done to make more pressure on these countries, because if the war continue until this time, it's because of there is no real pressure on this country. They are what
And
we
pressure.
call. Mhm.
You're then pointing maybe mostly at a potential weapon embargo, or maybe there is already a weapon embargo
Yeah, there is already a weapon embargo, but it's
to
still
make it more effective,
yeah,
or
more
yeah, yeah.
effective, and also thinking of if this conflict spills out of his boundaries, maybe the immigration can be very
Yes.
higher rate of immigration, not only from the people from Sudan, but the
Mhm.
countries who is living in the borders of Sudan. That can also be a threat for immigration for Europe.
And so there's a weapon embargo, but at the moment, where do the weapons come that help, that supply the government of Sudan and these militias? Where do
Yeah,
they
they
come
come
from?
from as the officials in Uganda says in United Arab Emirates. That is because there is a bridge area bridge between Khartoum and Emirates. So they say it's humanitarian help, but following the affirmation of the Uganda officials, it is not only medicine and food, but also ammunitions and rifles and arms. Very sophisticated arms. So this is.
And apart from trying to police the arms embargo more in a not more optimal way, what can specifically the European Union do?
Maybe economic sanctions. It's a ranking of sanctions that we can use in
Hmm.
international relations, going from the embargo on the arms or the economic sanction. and also banning the officials to travel to Europe, or
Yes.
banking. Yes, we can do. We have a lot of things we
Has
can
this happened,
use.
like Sudanese officials? Because personally, I'm not a big fan of sanctions.
Hmm.
If you look at the history, it often doesn't work. But maybe,
Hmm.
very specific sanctions. Going after the assets of these officials in the West, or if they don't, if they continue to commit crimes. Like, is there any sanctions already on Sudanese regime officials, or not?
No, in my knowledge, no, I didn't hear
Okay.
nothing about that. But it has to come, because
Hmm.
it's urgent now that they feel the pressure of the very big power states, and maybe that can be a kind of threatening these leaders, Sudanese leaders, and push them to stop the genocide which is happening in the country.
And then maybe one last question. I noticed that the Wagner group, so the terrorist mercenary army from
Mhm.
Russia, that they have been spotted in Sudan as well. I mean,
Mhm.
what's the role of Russia here? And maybe is there even a role of China?
Yeah, Sudan have very big, very strong ties with China. That is
Mm,
from years. But we were supposing that was economics and cultural ties. But there is also, military ties from these 20 last years. And Wagner also is there because it's a kind of a cold war between the West and the Russia, between the European Union and Russia. The war of Ukraine is not far from there, and the reasons that the Wagner are there is very easy to understand from the side of
mm,
Africa, because they are fighting in the field of oil sites and the gold sites.
mm,
So, in the same reason in Mali, they are fighting also in the fields of gold there in Mali,
mm,
and also in Sudan. It's in the border of the Yemen and the Red Sea. All this space is, full of oil, and Wagner is also behind these two things, oil and gold. So we have to pay attention of that, and don't just think that this is only politics, but also there is
sure.
uh, yeah, a lot of other things in behind of this.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Well, very interesting, and thank you so much, Mbake, for shining some light on a region which I think is incredibly important for Europe. If you see indeed
Mhm.
how important migration and disorderly migration is as a topic in Europe, then I think we should really take, like, we should give a lot more attention to the Sahel
Mhm.
and conflicts like in Darfur. So thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
The Brussels Report podcast.